Like, what is like the way that you're educating prospective customers?
Again, a lot of it starts with content. We do have a quantitative approach, which can be a little bit complex. So really trying to be able to have our message resonate with prospective investors, because while the majority of our clients are large, sophisticated institutions, we also have some smaller and medium-sized prospective investors. So we want to make sure that our messaging really resonates with all types of prospective investors.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast. We're going to meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about LA Capital Management Global, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Los Angeles Capital Management, with Edwina Atcheson, who is the Managing Director for Relationship Management. Edwina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Yeah. So LA Capital Management is an institutional asset management space, and the company's been around for about 20 years. I'm definitely excited to dive into what's going on there. But before we jump into the organization itself, our community is built of entrepreneurs, executives, sales and marketing leaders. So as the managing director there within the relationship management team, tell our community a little bit about yourself, your role, and some of the things you're focused on.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Max. Pleasure to be here today. I'm a Canadian living in London, although right now I'm actually in Canada. I've worked in the asset management industry, specifically in business development, for over 18 years. I got my first job in the industry with a Dutch asset management firm by answering a job post on eFinancial Careers. Started at the bottom of the ladder, which is great because I learned a ton. That firm went through a couple of mergers through the financial crisis and immediately after. So I moved on a couple of years later to join a quantitative equities firm, initially based in Boston, then transferred to London, where I headed up business development in the region for them. And then I was approached by a headhunter just over 6 years ago, about 6.5 years ago, about this business development opportunity at LA Capital, and the rest is history. So when I first joined them, I actually just focused on business development in the UK and continental Europe, based in London. And then in early 2020, they asked me to head up the team. So I've been heading up the business development team for just over 3 years. So we're composed of 5 relationship managers, and then also the investor communications and marketing group since under me as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I appreciate you kind of going all the way back to the roots. I love that, and sounds. I appreciate you sharing how you got started in this industry, and the relationship management team itself. Like, just dive into it really quickly. Like, what is the makeup of that team, and what's the focus there?
Sure. So we're talking to institutional investors, so pension schemes, corporate and public schemes, sovereign wealth funds, foundations, endowments, and also financial institutions that we would look to partner with to manage assets on their behalf. We focus on a few regions. So North America, the firm is based in Los Angeles, also Europe, the UK, the Middle East, and Australia.
Very cool. Yeah, makes sense. And so it sounds like this is almost a little bit of like a business development type role that the team is focused in on. And that's you mentioned earlier that your focus was business development. Is that fair?
That's exactly right. We're purely focused on business development, although we do have some client relationship management responsibilities as well. So when we onboard a new prospect who becomes a client, we're also involved in the ongoing relationship as well.
Gotcha. So with that in mind, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know, like, I'm sure you and the team are doing this all the time, but I know I've imagined, pitching an idea on Shark Tank, or maybe being the shark myself. So I love it if you can kind of give me like the elevator pitch for LA Capital Management, and like like what is the problem specifically that you're solving for your institutional clients?
Sure. Great question. As you mentioned, at the start of the podcast, we were founded just over 20 years ago. Four founders. We really wanted to build an independent client-centric firm focused on a proprietary technology, which is called Dynamic Alpha. It's a multi-factor stock selection model used in managing our clients' quantitative equity portfolios. And our approach is really designed to bridge the gap between forward-looking fundamental approaches and backward-looking quantitative approaches. The founders wanted to address the need for a forward-looking systematic approach to equity management that really allows for true breadth of coverage of the universe, but also seeking, to avoid some of the historical biases that can dictate more traditional quantitative approaches. And I'd say really the efficacy of our approach can be seen in our track records. Over 86% of our composites on a gross of fee basis and over 66% on a net of fee basis using this dynamic alpha model have outperformed their respective benchmarks since inception.
Wow, it's really interesting. Sounds like that approach, and the flexibility with that approach is maybe like the secret sauce that you guys provide in comparison to the bigger institutional banks. Would you agree? Like, I'm just kind of curious to see why invest with you? Is it because it's the approach that separates you guys?
I think two things are approach. We very much believe that the past is not prologue to the future. So just because something worked well in the past, we don't believe that it will continue to work well going forward. So our dynamic approach is very appealing to a lot of institutions. And I think clients really value, several things about our firm. One, that the focus of the firm, we're not a firm that's trying to be all things to all people. We do one thing, manage equity portfolios for institutional clients, and we try to do that really, really well. And that's been the firm's sole core focus, since we were founded over 20 years ago. I think another aspect about the firm that makes us attractive is our ownership structure. Being 100% employee owned by our parent companies, I believe, is really valued by our clients as well. It helps to create a direct alignment of interest between the firm, our employees and the clients. And lastly, I would mention, Max, that we manage our growth very carefully and also intentionally. At the end of the day, we're an asset manager. We're not an asset gatherer. So we can give our clients a lot of attention. Our goal from a new business perspective is to bring in 3 to 6 new clients a year, which we believe is a manageable number, and means that we can focus on delivering really high quality service to our clients.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about your clients right now. What does that ideal client look like to you? And what is that focus for your relationship managers and getting in front of those clients?
So our average mandate size at the firm is about $450 million. So as you can imagine, our clients tend to be very large, sophisticated institutions. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, pension schemes, so corporate and public schemes, sovereign wealth funds, and also financial institutions. We manage money for several financial institutions, and then really focusing on a few key regions. Obviously, the US is where the company was founded. Canada, we've seen some nice success there, specifically with public funds over the last couple of years. The UK and continental Europe, about $13.5 billion of our $31 billion that we manage is for clients in that region. And then we've also seen some success in the Middle East and Australia.
Wow, that's amazing reach you guys have, and it sounds like there's a global focus there. But tell me about how maybe you guys have grown the business, and could be in general or maybe during COVID as well.
Sure. I guess just at a high level, how we've grown, it's really been organically, literally one client at a time. If I specifically look at the COVID period, we all faced a tremendous amount of uncertainty with this pandemic on a global scale, shutting down large parts of the physical economy. And as a firm, we had to pivot very quickly, which, fortunately, we were really well set up to do, given our focus on technology. It's in our firm mission, actually, achieving client success through research and technology. So our meetings, we moved from in person to virtual, over Zoom, over Teams. We moved from doing in-person seminars to webinars. It was really important for us to continue to share our insights with our clients and consultants and prospects as we were navigating through this really, really challenging environment. And the firm actually experienced really strong growth during that period. We had more new funded business in 2021 than in any other year. But I have to admit, Max, if you asked me at the start of the pandemic whether we win new business during that period, I would have been very skeptical. But I'm glad that I was wrong.
Yeah.
And the fact that we did win considerable amounts of business over that pandemic period, I think is a real testament, to the strong relationships that we've built with our clients and prospects and consultants. And, at the end of the day, this is a trust business.
I love that. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. During COVID, there was just such a big reset, and there's a ton of changes happening. Even for myself, like at my organization, there's a lot of companies that are playing a lot more offense versus defense when trying to scale out their own business development teams. So we saw a huge boom during COVID as well for companies that weren't scaling their teams internally. They're looking to scale, from an external perspective. So but we were in business development, so there's still a lot of companies that were obviously trying to grow during that time. So, as you guys were growing organically yourselves, like how are you continuing to grow on that? Like, how are you guys thinking about the brand and growing that too?
A great question. Brand awareness, building brand awareness is really important to us, and something that we started focusing on quite specifically, I would say about 2.5 years ago. And in my view, it begins with one word, and that's content. Content is absolutely king when building a brand. We have a dedicated group at the firm called Investor Communications Marketing. They report into me, and they focus on building out, high quality marketing pieces, whether it's white papers, our quarterly newsletter, monthly model views, seminars, webinars, our website. We also work with a PR and communications consultant in both the US and UK who've really helped, get our name out there more with interviews with various industry publications and media appearance on outlets such as, Bloomberg and CNBC.
I love it. Yes, content is still king, even in a downturn. I saw a statistic from Binder, which is a MarTech company, that said 57% of CMOs in the consumer sector are still plan to increase their amount of content spend. So even in a downturn, the companies are still investing into their own content. So it's great to hear like that's a focus for you. What about like education? Like what is like the way that you're educating prospective customers?
Again, a lot of it starts with content.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a quantitative approach, which can be a little bit complex. So really trying to be able to have our message resonate with prospective investors, because while the majority of our clients are large, sophisticated institutions, we also have some smaller and medium-sized prospective investors. So we want to make sure that our messaging really resonates with all types of prospective investors. And again, focusing on that content, sharing our insights via white papers and various other publications. It's all part of the educational piece.
Yeah, I mean, education has to be, enormous and immense when, obviously trying to land new customers from a relationship building perspective. But like how are you guys thinking about like the growth of the business, and like how are you guys thinking about like educating, on an ongoing basis? Like, I'm just kind of curious if you have any examples there.
Sure. It's a constant, I think, educational process with your clients, whether you've just onboarded them or, they've been a client of yours for many, many years. So we really believe in sharing our insights, with our clients. And again, through various marketing pieces that we put out, the white papers, the newsletters, the monthly model views, our seminars, webinars, sharing insights on our website. And, I would argue that all of this in terms of the journey with our clients, the educational journey, building our brand, has begun to pay off. We're more recognized in the industry now, both amongst asset owners and consultants. We manage money for some of the largest institutions in the world. eVestment, you may be familiar with them. They're an institutional data and analytics provider owned by NASDAQ, and they publish a quarterly brand awareness report. And for our size category, we've recently achieved the highest brand awareness score, so a 10 out of 10 amongst both consultants and asset owners. So it's really been exciting to see our brand taking off and to getting in front of some of the largest asset owners in the world who are now our clients.
I love that. That's amazing. And what is like one like thing maybe you talked about at the beginning of this year that you're hoping to accomplish, by the end of this year? What's something you want to be celebrating?
I would love for our team, our relationship management team, to be able to add one new client in each of our focus regions, so North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Australia, by the end of the year. It's a big ask, but I think it's very achievable, and that would be a lot of fun to celebrate.
I love it. That's an amazing goal. And as the team has the 3 to 6 next new clients they're trying to bring on by the end of this year, and have everyone bring on at least one. Right. I'm curious, like, what would that mean to the business, though, if they're able to accomplish, and you guys were able to accomplish that goal?
It would mean a tremendous amount. Continued growth would help us to reinvest, in the business and our research side and technology, the different systems that we use. So it would be tremendously helpful for the business and our clients.
Of course. Well, as we wrap things up here, Edwina, I appreciate you, by the way, sharing all of this context and about the company, its story, its growth, your approach, and how are you guys growing, and how you're leveraging marketing, how you partnered up with other teams to help you with marketing and your own growth. Is there anything else that you'd love to share, or anything else you think our listeners would need to know about you or the company itself that we haven't talked about thus far?
I would just encourage everyone to, if you'd like to learn more, about the firm, to visit our website, LACapm.com, or LACM Global website is lacmglobal.com. We love partnering with institutional clients and helping them meet their objectives. And I just really appreciate you having me on the podcast today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, definitely everyone who's listening, who's interested, go check out lacapm.com. Edwina, thank you so much for telling your story and being a part of this podcast, and excited to see how you guys grow and scale, and hope to see you again soon.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening. That wraps up another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Cheers.